Oh, hey, good morning, everybody. You're watching Rebel Roundup. It is Wednesday, which means it's Western Wednesdays. So we'll have what we call the Buffalo panel today, where we bring in two Western voices to break down the news. That is Lise Merle right beside me there. She's my co-host at the show on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and I am your regular host, Sheila Gunn Reid, and I had to just change my setup there so I knew exactly who I was talking to and what you guys were seeing on the screen. I am pleased to tell you that I have resolved whatever technical catastrophe that I was living through yesterday. I spent some time and sorted it out because you can teach an old dog new tricks. I'll tell everybody how they can get involved in the show, and then I'll bring the guys on because I think we have an excellent panel, one of the best, and I say that every time we have a panel, but I really feel like this is a really great one, especially post United Conservative Party AGM. So if you want to get involved in the show, you're watching us over on the wonderful free speech platform of Rumble. You can leave a Rumble rant over there. That's their paid chat, and it gives you your say. It allows us to democratize the show, and it helps us stay alive without taking any government funding, which is something that we will absolutely never do. We stand on principle with that. But that also puts a burden on you folks at home. If you love us, you're going to have to pitch in some money to keep us going. And if you can't, you can just share the show. That's a great free way to help us. If you're watching us over on YouTube, same thing over there. Their paid chat is called a super chat, and they have a paid comment that you can contribute after in case you don't miss or in case you don't catch the live version of the show. Their paid comment is called a super thanks. So you can thank us that way. Okay, let's bring the dudes on. We've got, a phenomenal panel, as I said. We've got Chris Scott. He is the owner of the Whistle Stop Cafe, Alberta folk hero, and heavily involved with the Independence Education Project of the Alberta Prosperity Project. And then we've got our friend Cory Morgan. He's a host and columnist over at the Western Standard, and he is also an independence book bestseller. So he's got some expertise on a lot of the things that we're going to talk about today. And I'd like to take some credit for playing a role in just the sheer volume of books that Cory sells, but it is probably a lot more to do with the content of the book. So we've got the guys on the show. Thanks for joining us, guys. We saw you over the weekend, but we couldn't get enough of you. So let's talk about this thing. And I'm going to go to Cory first because whenever we get these sorts of questions when we were hosting our independence town halls, I would defer to Cory on this subject because he's done the research. So not only does BC get a veto on the memorandum of understanding between Alberta and the feds on a potential pipeline project, but I guess the First Nations chiefs also think they get one. This is from our friends over at Juno News. They've unanimously rejected the Alberta Pipeline Memorandum of Understanding in a resolution just passed hours before Prime Minister Mark Carney addresses the Assembly of First Nations. It was an emergency motion. It wasn't part of their original draft resolutions. And so it was moved by Haida Chief Donald Edgars and seconded by Indigenous resource lawyer Merle Alexander. Printed, distributed, and amended and adopted by full consensus at Tuesday's meeting to, I guess, landlock our oil and gas. And this was something Mark Carney has repeatedly said. Oh, this MOU, it's cute and adorable and all, but it doesn't go forward without the consent of the First Nations or British Columbia. So it is really not worth the paper it's written on. Cory, I'll go to you, and then I'll go to Chris.
Sure. I mean, it's a joke. It's as simple as that. There's the spot right off the bat. If Carney is serious about this, he has to invest political capital and point out the constitutional realities, his constitutional supposed obligations. The First Nations have no veto power in the Constitution, nor does the province of BC. And if he won't say it, I've just recently written a column. We'll see if it gets past the editor that way, but we're saying Daniel Smith may as well use the piece of paper as toilet paper because that's all it's worth now. If he won't say those two things, it's pointless because it's obviously never going to happen and he doesn't want it to happen. So that's exposed it. So the question is Daniel Smith really that naive and being taken for a ride with this? Or is she just setting it up, knowing it's going to fail so she can move on to the next phase? Because clearly, and I'm sure you'll get on to that, the membership of the United Conservative Party doesn't feel for a second that agreement is a win for Alberta.
Yeah, it's not just that Carney won't put BC and the First Nations chiefs in their place. He's actually saying the opposite. While Danielle Smith was holding the press conference on the MOU, the press release out of the Prime Minister's office quite literally said this doesn't happen without the consent of British Columbia or First Nations. Chris, I'll go to you.
Yeah, well, I agree with Cory. Just the idea that a group can unilaterally, without even having a discussion, say no, and the answer will always be no. That kind of lets the cat out of the bag right there. They're not interested in prosperity or working together or even elevating their own people out of the situation they're in. It's they're exercising their authority as a political weapon and nothing else. And so when I saw this MOU and the premier talking about we're going to get these things done, that was the first thing I thought. We just had the premier of BC say it's never going to happen. We have the Indigenous group saying it's never going to happen. And Carney knows this. The Liberals know this. I mean, there's like 350 open actions against the federal government by Indigenous groups right now. And there's no way that he knew. There's no way he didn't know that this was going to be shut down by them in this way, or a try to be shut down.
Lise.
No, the one red flag that I immediately noticed when they announced this deal between the feds and Alberta was that it was Indigenous led. Indigenous led. So we went from Indigenous consultation to Indigenous led in absolutely no time. And if you can show me in the Indigenous Ways of Knowing manual how you know how to manage a multi-billion-dollar project that is responsible for the biggest economic driver in the province, well, then I'm all for it. But the truth of the matter is we need serious people working on these things, these kinds of projects of this scope, and we need to make sure that they're on board. Indigenous led, and then all of a sudden these Indigenous chiefs come out and say we want nothing to do with it. Okay, well, this is a nothing burger. This project is a nothing burger.
Well, and just to back up a little, Northern Gateway was an Indigenous-led pipeline. Our Indigenous bands in Alberta are deeply involved in the oil and gas sector because it gives well-paying jobs in their own communities. They don't have to go to Edmonton. They can stay in their own communities. We've got Indigenous bands that are deeply involved in the oil and gas sector. There's the Mikisew, Cold Lake, Fort McKay, all the bands around Fort McMurray, most of them have deep involvement in the oil and gas sector. But being Indigenous led does not make or break a pipeline these days. It's the or lack of ability, or actually I think they have the ability, lack of political will of the federal government to enforce the Constitution around here, because Northern Gateway was an Indigenous-led project that was allowed to just languish and die because of the tanker ban.
Well, but when they use language like this is the same as land acknowledgements. When they use language like Indigenous-led, what the Indigenous people of BC hear is, well, we get to say no then. We get to say no. We are leading ourselves right into a no. And so this is the danger of politicizing projects like this, like the federal government is wanting to do.
And we've got a clip of Mark Carney here. He says he doesn't need to talk to the First Nations to remind them that they don't have a veto because there's no pipeline to talk about, which is sadly true. Let's watch this.
Would we ram through a pipeline? No, never. No, never. We will consult free, prior, informed consent with First Nations. We will work with the province of British Columbia. We have conditions in the MOU with Alberta. We know how to work with the provinces. We know how to consult. We know how to respect. Does the member opposite?
He just renamed Justin Trudeau's immigration minister to cabinet, the guy who destroyed our immigration system and helped double the housing costs in this country. And that minister has now had something to say about this prime minister's failure to consult on pipelines. He said the consultation should have started yesterday. So why is it that he didn't start 8 months ago consulting First Nations? Is it because he doesn't care what they have to say, or because he just doesn't want the pipeline to get built?
Mr. Speaker, I recognize this situation is very, very complicated for the member opposite. That's right. First off, you have to have a pipeline project. You have to have a private proponent. In order for that to happen, we had to create the conditions precedent. We have now done that because we talk to the provinces. We work with the provinces. Mr. Speaker, in the Building Canada Act, which was passed before the member opposite returned to this House, we set out the consultation process for nation building projects.
Okay, I'll go to Chris first, and then I'll go to Cory. Am I crazy? But the MOU, by failing to remind First Nations they don't get a veto, we are never going to get a pipeline company who's going to put forth any sort of capital, sink any costs in this, because we've got a federal government that has said, well, it doesn't matter what sort of technical review the pipeline may pass. It might not, that doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, the First Nations people can just say no. The Prime Minister used the word prior informed consent, but that's not what the law says. The law says consultation.
Yeah, and consultation doesn't mean veto. He's right here, though. There isn't a project to talk about.
Sure.
So they don't need to consult on anything right now. But he has this habit of letting the cat out of the bag. He's told us all of the hurdles to getting that pipeline built. And those hurdles are not minor things. They're major things. And they've caused us to stumble for decades in this province. So why would it be any different now? But the other thing here is, and something people should be aware of, and they should be asking, who is it in the Indigenous groups that's saying no?
Right.
Is it the people, or is it the chiefs? And then you got to ask why. Why are they saying no to this before they even talk about? Why is the answer always no? And I would suggest that there are some people right now who benefit greatly from the inequity that First Nations people experience in this country. These people drive new vehicles, they have huge houses, they have huge pensions, and they get everything they need. If you elevate those people out of poverty and into prosperity, and you give them the tools so that they don't need to rely on someone else to provide for them, all of a sudden, all of these people who benefit from the structure are irrelevant. And it's their futures that are at risk. So they're willing to sacrifice the future of the province and the entire country to maintain that control. It's disgusting. Yeah,
I mean, if I were a pipeline builder, and this is one of the things I asked Premier Smith at the AGM, if I were a pipeline builder and I'm looking at Russia, OPEC, America with their drill baby drill attitude, and no increase in carbon tax there, and none of this giving a veto to these other places, of course I would not consider investing in Canada. I just wouldn't. It's an unsafe place for me to park my money. I'll go to Cory.
Well, yeah, and there are proponents waiting in the wings. Alberta's sitting on one of the largest deposits on the planet. There's an Asian market, hungry and starving, that would be overjoyed to purchase that product if we could just get it to the coast. They know that, but they're not going to invest a red cent until Carney essentially says it right off the bat when he said, I'm not going to force a pipeline through to the coast. Well, then it's done. Because that's the only way it's going to happen, is you are going to have to force it. You're going to have to show some political knackers, take on your job as a prime minister, and say it's going to be done. It is your role to consult with respect, bring in involvement. That's fine. But we can't pretend as well that we're starting from scratch with this. Look, the Northern Gateway consulted, studied, did everything up and down. You know what? The mountains are in the same place. The dirt's in the same place. The creeks are in the same place. We just need to knock the dust off that, change some dates, and it's done. They could speed this through quickly if they had the will. And what we're seeing right now is he doesn't have the will. He's being disingenuous. And what he's done is found a backdoor way to increase the industrial carbon tax in Alberta without giving the concession of giving us a pipeline. We've lost on both fronts.
Right. We gave a lot to get potentially nothing in return. And then the Pathways Alliance guys get their magic beans. They're very expensive magic beans. Lise, go ahead.
No, well, I'm just wondering if blazing a pipeline straight south wouldn't fix all of these things. We could pull a nutrient and send,
Yeah.
right? Pull a nutrient. This is Saskatchewan potash and Saskatchewan uranium went straight to America. Alberta should consider doing the same thing and screw BC. Absolutely screw them. The tankers can wave at BC on their way out of the Washington port. And this is a quick way to solve them and cut them out of the equation. BC, who needs you? Screw you. We're going somewhere else.
Yeah, they don't have a problem with those Alaskan oil tankers coming down to Cherry Point Refinery
Sure do
at all.
not.
They sure
Nope.
don't.
Sure do not.
We've got another clip here. Bloc Québécois leader Yves Francois Blanchette. He's very concerned about a pipeline from Alberta to British Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
Who cares? But anyways, let's watch.
The Honourable Member for Berry-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, last Thursday, the Prime Minister announced an agreement with Alberta, which is a problem in many ways. I asked the government if it would commit irrevocably to not do anything in British Columbia without the express consent of British Columbia and First Nations. The answer was yes. But yet the announcement was made. Now, what is it? No, please be careful with the language you use. This is not outside the rules, but it might provoke a certain reaction, and one reaction can lead to another, and the two reactions can provoke disorder. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We respect provincial rights and jurisdiction. We respect British Columbia. It is absolutely clear in the Memorandum of Understanding that we and the province of Alberta will work together with British Columbia. We need an agreement for a pipeline. The Honourable Member. Now, when you want the agreement of one party to an agreement, you invite them right away because the agreement the Prime Minister signed will apply even without British Columbia. So will the Prime Minister recognize that he has not respected what he said in the House, that he didn't show great respect for the truth when he signed this agreement? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, this was not a contract. This was a memorandum of understanding.
Exactly.
And this has to do with conditions that are sufficient, but they are necessary. It is not the end of a process. It is the beginning of a process with Alberta, with British Columbia, and above all, a process with Indigenous peoples. The Honourable Member for Berry-Chambly. It's a piece of paper that he signed and which creates obligations. It is a contract. He can call it whatever he likes, in whatever language he likes. Given what is at stake with the moratorium on tankers, given issues with greenhouse gases, given the absence of an agreement with a First Nations who voted against this agreement this morning, does the Prime Minister not think he should make sure that all parties should be able to sign this free, prior, and informed consent? The Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, this is a memorandum of understanding with commitments, with great investments that Alberta will make in carbon capture. The industrial carbon tax, 6 times greater.
Okay, I think that's good. Mark Carney's telling the truth there, isn't he? regardless of what Danielle Smith wants to spin this to be, there will be a 6 times increase in the carbon tax in Alberta, which acts like a scarecrow to investment. You know, when you have a 6 times greater industrial carbon tax in Alberta and nothing in the United States, well, it's something even Mark Carney knows with Brookfield's heavy investment in pipelines in the United States. I'll go to Cory first.
Yeah, it's just another poison pill, which was surprising.
Yeah.
She was trying to polish that there. I mean, it's being exposed in question period, but it gets frustrating, the politics that has to be played again with who has authority in this country. When you listen to Blanchette, I mean, I think I posted it this way on X. I said, you know, he's like the unemployed brother-in-law living in your basement, eating your food, smoking weed, playing video games, and then he's telling you how you're allowed to make a living to pay his bills. Like, I don't
Yes.
care what Blanchette says. And the prime minister shouldn't either. But of course, that's the usual game in Canada. We have to placate Quebec. It's just maddening to watch this going on. And it was good to see that moment of honesty out of Carney, as he always does, turn it towards, look, see, we're beating on Alberta. Look at all the obligations they've got, while at the same time not saying that we're going to get the pipeline through. He was dead honest with it. We're just paying the tax and getting nothing for it.
Right. Can't they just get along in their mutual hate for Alberta? Like, why? Like, it was odd to see the separatists advocating for BC, but I guess they hate Alberta even more than they hate Canada. I'll go to
then
Chris.
they won't miss us when we're gone. And
Exactly.
I won't miss them.
Arrivederci. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, first I got to say, hopefully within very short order, Quebec will be completely irrelevant to any Canadian politics. They've already taken steps to make Canadian politics irrelevant to them. They've voted to cut ties with the monarchy. They're talking about passing legislation that treats Canada as just a neighboring nation, not a federation with any kind of national law. So maybe they should just continue on that path. But again, why is it that Blanchette is so strongly opposed to Alberta prosperity? Like you said, like Cory said, we help pay their bills. They get about $12 billion from us every year in equalization. So what is it that he's so opposed to? And I have a feeling it might be something similar to the early 80s. Alberta, if we are unshackled from the current federal law that is preventing us from achieving our destiny, would in very short order become the economic capital of this country, for sure. It happened in the early 80s, and Trudeau responded with the NEP and kneecapped Alberta for decades. And we're kind of looking at the same thing right now. Alberta is on the precipice of becoming the greatest nation on earth, with the highest GDP, the lowest taxes, the most attractive place to invest. And that threatens the status quo that sends billions of dollars to Quebec. So I get it. I don't agree with what he's saying, but I understand why somebody would want to keep that if they're benefiting so greatly from what's happening right now.
Lise?
Well, I guess my takeaway is between that conversation between Blanchette and Carney is that they're arguing with each other who hates Alberta and the West more.
Right.
And even if the federal government rescinds all of their craziness, their emissions targets, their production caps, their tanker bans, there's nothing. We have no confidence in the West that the federal government won't just go and pass new, more extensive laws that do us dirty in the West. We have no trust that Ottawa can get this right, and that Quebec is getting involved is adorable. Like, good luck paying for your luxury existence without us, Quebec. And Chris Scott, just every time you say Alberta, in my head, I say also Saskatchewan. Also Saskatchewan. You're not allowed to go by yourselves. Okay, we're in this together like sisters, and also Saskatchewan. No, together we would have one of the biggest economies on earth, with one of the greatest land masses on earth. I mean, it would just be incredible. What a great adventure for us.
All the food and the energy. All the food and the energy.
All the food, all the energy, all the fertilizer, all the uranium, all of the oil and gas. I mean, buddies, what are we waiting for?
I know. Now, Mark Carney, he was talking about them magic beans of the Pathways Alliance carbon capture project. He says there has to be substantial investment in carbon capture for the Alberta pipeline project to make sense. I'm not sure why, but this is, of course, why the 5 major oil and gas players in Alberta are in favor of hiking up the industrial carbon tax. It's because they get billions and billions of dollars for their Magic Beans carbon capture project that they're calling Pathways Alliance. And old Murray Edwards from CNRL's laughing all the way in his palatial castle that he has in England while we're just all struggling to keep the lights on. Anyways, let's go to that clip from Mark Carney.
C'est terminé, les départs, il y en aura d'autres. Avez-vous encore des gens à convaincre au sein de votre caucus sur l'accord avec l'Alberta?
Tout d'abord, il faut reconnaître que
You don't have a translation?
l'accord, le protocole d'accord, c'est
Okay.
seulement un protocole.
Wait, that's fine. I don't need to listen to it in French. But anyways, the gist of it is that they asked him about the pipeline MOU, and he says, well, there's no MOU, there's no pipeline. And key condition of it is that they have to give substantial investments to these environmentalist pet projects put forward by the same guys who stood on the stage with Rachel Notley and shoved a consumer carbon tax down our throats. We'll go to Cory.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're seeing crony capitalism at its ugliest. There's going to be some particular, as you said, big 5 companies are going to benefit heavily. Our juniors are going to get totally screwed out of this.
Yep.
And they've cut the deals at the higher echelons of power. And meanwhile, so they don't care if a pipeline goes or not. They know that they've just got their, you could say captured capital, because they're going to suck in subsidies through that carbon tax and pump it into a hole with the carbon capture. It's just a shell game. And I really wish our premier would call it out. Hopefully this is going to come to a head pretty soon.
Yeah, Chris, go ahead.
This is really interesting. It kind of reminds me of, a few years ago do you remember when Jason Kenney's government changed the rules around how oil companies could acquire new well licenses? They changed the rules and they made it very, very, very difficult for juniors. It was still the same for the giant oil companies. And this is interesting because CNRL was one of the biggest proponents of those changes. And the changes that were made them billions of dollars. And Murray Edwards has made a very, very lucrative living off of buying distressed, bankrupt oil companies and turning them into just juggernauts. That's what happened with most of the area around Wabasca and the Athabasca oil sands.
Yep.
Now, it's also interesting to know that once those juniors realized what was happening to them, they actually stood up and they did something about it. They were the ones that helped with the infrastructure needed to get rid of Jason Kenney. Right. So they eventually fought back. And now I can see something similar maybe brewing here in Alberta. I certainly hope it is, because if people open their eyes and pay attention to what's going on and who's benefiting from these terrible laws that keep the rest of us from achieving prosperity, they would be absolutely just livid. And they maybe do something about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear that those big 5 are creating the conditions where the juniors aren't viable, so they can come in like predatory sharks and gobble them up.
Exactly.
Jack Mintz is the guy who said it'll add $6 to $10 per barrel in production costs. Well, the big guys who are heavily subsidized, and again, I say their Magic Beans project, they can absorb those costs a lot more readily than the juniors. Anyways, I think this could have a devastating effect on those juniors in the mid oil and gas companies, much like the NEP of yore. Cory, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, as Chris was pointing out, I mean, we could see again a revolution brewing. The heavyweights control a lot of money and have a lot of influence on the higher levels of power, but it's those juniors, it's those service companies, it's those people on the ground who touch base with Albertans, and they carry a lot of weight and they carry a lot of capital when you add it all together. As we see a growing independence movement coming, and we see again that response at the United Conservative AGM in light of this, if it becomes a well-organized, well-funded one from these companies who've been left on the sidelines while this backdoor deal has been cut, we're going to see some big changes happening really soon.
You know what? Let's talk about that real quick, because we've mentioned it twice. The party membership at the UCP AGM. I was there, Lise was there, both of you guys were there. Every time she mentioned that, or that she mentioned the phrase Alberta within a united Canada, the crowd booed. Now they booed.
Yeah.
Now I don't want to say that they're specifically booing her, because I think the party loves her, despite her bad ideas with this MOU. I think the separatist faction, which I think is the majority of the party, correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen, see her as a perfectly fine caretaker until such time as we cut ties with the rest of Confederation. But you could see that people saw right through what that MOU really is, what it does and doesn't do, regardless of the political spin coming out of the UC camp around it. Chris, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious that I would say the vast majority of the party, and probably a lot of Albertans, maybe even not within the UCP, they love her. I mean, she's doing things that no other premier will do.
Yep.
She's got courage. She's eloquent. She can very effectively say something quite nasty with nice words in her speeches, and I love that. But but the thing is, she's said this a number of times. If you guys want something done as Albertans, then you have to step up, do the groundwork, and I'll do what you want. If it's the will of the people, I'll do what you want. So now our job is to make sure that she knows what we want. And at that AGM, it was very apparent. It wasn't just the booing when she was talking about within a United Canada type stuff. It was also on the plenary floor. Like, people were mentioning in their rationale for these policies this wouldn't be necessary in an independent Alberta, and the place would erupt in cheers. Or they were hinting towards, or not even hinting, openly talking about Alberta independence, even discussing policy and governance. So we're doing what the Alberta Prosperity Project intended to do in the first place, and that is creating that parade that the politicians need to get in front of if they want to maintain their governor's power. Because at the end of the day, that's the way it is. Politicians are going to do what they believe is going to keep them in power, what they believe is going to get their support. So we're showing these people now that to get our support, they have to get on the independence train.
Cory?
Yeah, well, clearly, the majority of the party is definitely on the independence train. The majority of the province isn't there yet, and that is what puts Premier Smith in a bit of a difficult position. Like Chris, I talk to a lot of people on the floor. People love Smith. Her personal popularity is still strong, though things can change if you're not careful. What I also see is a pressure cooker. They are frustrated. They're ticked off. They want to see real action. Something I've said repeatedly, she's got to facilitate a referendum.
Yep.
She doesn't have to endorse it. She doesn't have to take part in it, but she's got to give that vent, that ability for the people on the ground to start rolling towards this, to start campaigning. Otherwise, they're just going to turn all that energy inside of the UCP, as we saw last weekend. And eventually that positive sentiment for Premier Smith is going to evaporate within her own party, and she's going to wear it.
How long do we have you, Cory? Do you have to go?
I got about 5 more minutes, and I got to prep for my show, I'm afraid.
Oh, I know. Okay, I wanted to talk to you guys real quick about this post from, it's from Chris at the Whistle Stop. He says, AHS made it illegal to give perfectly good food to those in need. Grocery stores throw out tons of food daily, entire truckloads of frozen food, millions of dollars of food that you actually pay for in the cost of your food, and it's thrown out. And it keeps the costs of food high. And this is an Alberta Health Services rule. I'm old enough to remember. Do you remember the floods? Like, I think it was 2012. Of course, everybody remembers the massive floods here. But I remember the AHS showing up and throwing out hundreds of Hutterite made sandwiches. Do you remember that?
You're kidding.
Yeah. Anyways, go ahead, Chris.
Well, maybe we should let Cory go first if he's got to get going. I've got lots of time.
Go ahead, Cory.
Well, I'll go quick. Yeah, I mean, as a former, bar and restaurant owner as well, AHS is just overwhelmed and ridiculous with the amount of regulations. I mean, it's essential. You want to keep your coolers at the right temperature. You want to make sure there aren't mice or cockroaches running havoc. But the degree of control and bureaucracy becomes absurd when you get that trying to find an absolute zero risk way of moving food or food products, and it leads to things like this, like Chris has talked about, just utter waste on perfectly good food, and it really should be addressed. But again, it takes somebody strong enough to tell a bureaucrat to stand down, because they won't do it on their own.
Right. We'll say bye to Cory now because he has to go prep for his show. Thanks for being generous with your time, Cory. Tell people how they can tune into your show.
westernstandard.news, or just search out the Western Standard on all those social media channels, or the Cowboy Channel and a few of those other cable spots
right.
we rebroadcast.
Great. Thanks, Cory. We'll talk
Thanks.
soon. All right. We'll go to Chris. Chris, tell us more about these AHS rules that prevent us from helping hungry people or cutting into expensive food costs.
Sure. I'm going to go way back to the mid 90s first. I was in Air Cadets and we did all sorts of camps. And when we were in these camps, the food that we ate was the expired individual meal packets from the Canadian Forces. That's what we ate.
MREs.
Exactly. I remember opening chocolate bars that were just completely white because the paraffins in the chocolate had come out, and there's nothing wrong with it. We ate them. Nobody got sick or died, but we didn't waste those food. That's what we got as kids. Now I have a restaurant and a convenience store, and I'll tell you, Alberta Health Services now also, in addition to dealing with restaurants, they also deal with convenience stores. They also deal with tobacco. They have a very large purview. They came into my store and they looked at my chocolate bar rack, and I had some chocolate bars that were outdated. Now, I have a company that comes in, they're supposed to do that, but they missed some. So AHS posted on the publicly available health services report for my establishment that I was serving food unfit for human consumption. Now, when you hear that, that makes you think, whoa, is he serving like squirrel? I mean, squirrel's fit for human consumption, but you know what I mean? What is going on in this place? So I ripped them a new one. They eventually changed it. They took it down, but that language is still there. So if you have a jug of milk in your fridge and they see that you're using it and it was best before the date before, they will say that you're selling food unfit for human consumption. Now, what this has done, it's created a culture of fear of bureaucracy and authority within the food service industry. Now, a grocery store that may have otherwise donated, like, for instance, this is a real story, an entire truckload of frozen lasagna that was maybe 3 days past the sell-by date.
And
always
it's frozen anyway.
Yeah, nothing wrong with it. You know where it went? Pig food. It went for pig food.
Terrible.
An entire reefer van full of bacon, pig food, and it frozen because it was 3 days past. And the reason they do it is because insurance companies have said, we're not going to cover you. We're not going to cover the liability if something happens if you sell food that's 3 days past the due date and someone gets sick and sues you. So now these big corporations have said, okay, well, if that's the case, we don't want to have anything to do with it. So I should probably change what I said. It's not that they made it exactly illegal to do, but they created conditions around this issue where the corporations now, they'll just throw out tons and tons, and we're talking hundreds of tons of food per year in Alberta, rather than risk a lawsuit. And this is going on while there's a food shortage crisis, we have a homeless crisis, we have all these things, all these people that need this food, and because of bureaucracy and red tape, it's all gone.
That's crazy. You know what? When something I have purchased is like headed towards its like best before, I chuck it in the freezer. Everybody does that.
Yes.
I buy a flat of chicken, portion it out, chuck it in the freezer. That's what freezing does. It preserves the food if you can't eat it right away. Yeah. You would think AHS would consider that, but they don't. Hey, Chris, how long do we have you?
I'm good until, well, probably way longer than this show. 12:30, I'm good till.
Okay, well, let's hit an ad break. We'll come back on the other side and keep talking.
Gun bans make great distraction.
Trudeau may be gone, but Carney has picked up his same rhetoric.
We will quickly, and I mean quickly, reinvigorate the buyback of...
Hunters, collectors, competitors, and defenders of tradition are still being targeted, while criminals run wild under Liberal policy. But we are fighting back. Join us. Canada's National Firearms Association, in defense of freedom.
You like the hat? Me too. Same strong message about making Canada great again, but in a really cool color, black and gold. There's other colors available, and it's an all-Canadian site. So if you want to signal your tribe or trigger a Liberal, go to mcgahats.ca today.
Canadians know the national anthem. They stand in silence to remember those who died for this country. But not every Canadian knows their rights and freedoms. The Freedom Passport will change that. It looks and feels like a Canadian passport, but contains the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms in a portable, easy-to-read format. The Freedom Passport. Order one for yourself and for all the freedom lovers that you love at freedompassport.ca.
Well, I'm sad to say that I didn't bring a book to the book club. But Chris sure did. He's reading Mark Carney's manifesto, Values, on the Great Green Reset. It's good to know your enemy and what they're saying, what they plan to do to you. Hey, before we move on, I've got to bring everybody a quick message from our friends at the Wellness Company. What if those who were once called conspiracy theorists turned out to be right again? A new study by Korean doctors claimed that COVID vaccines raise the risk of 6 cancers, including lung, breast, and prostate. Researchers analyzed health records for more than 8.4 million adults between 2021 and 2023, and their findings were published in Biomarker Research, a respected scientific journal. Critics dismiss it, but the data raises concern that spike protein exposure may be tied to long-term health risks. Dr. Peter McCullough has been aware of this since 2020, which is why he collaborated with the Wellness Company to create Ultimate Spike Detox, designed to help your body clear spike proteins, reduce inflammation, and support heart health with natural ingredients like nattokinase, dandelion root, and bromelain. It's your daily proactive defense from a man-made virus. Don't wait until symptoms strike or something unexpected happens. Experience the only formula approved and used by Dr. McCullough, one of the top doctors who risked it all. Head to twc.health/rebel and use code REBEL to get 10% off plus free shipping. Again, that's twc.health/rebel. Use code REBEL to get 10% off and get yourself back to that pre-COVID feeling. All right, let's get back into, let's go to Scott Moe. Scott Moe, he's not conceding anything on this darned old industrial carbon tax. He says the Sask Party has opposed the federal carbon tax since day one, and that's why today Saskatchewan is the only completely carbon tax-free province in Canada. The NDP has supported the carbon tax since day one, and that's why Canada has a carbon tax in the first place. And apparently Scott Moe's fighting this battle alone. Well, with the help of the federal Conservatives, I suppose, but let's watch.
Mr. Speaker, on the floor of this Assembly, there is but one party, Mr. Speaker, that has been in opposition to the carbon tax since day one, Mr. Speaker, continuing up to and including today, Mr. Speaker. And I'm proud to once again say on the floor of this Assembly that Saskatchewan is the only province in the nation of Canada that today is carbon tax free, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as we move forward, we are talking to our Liberal government, and unlike the members opposite, Mr. Speaker, who believe that the only deal that you can make with the federal Liberals is a deal to put the carbon tax on Saskatchewan people, we actually feel that there is an opportunity to make a deal with the federal Liberals to take the carbon tax off Saskatchewan people, families, and industries, Mr. Speaker. Again, Mr. Speaker, we see the members opposite, when faced with the opportunity to be part of the solution, always choosing to be part of the problem.
Yeah, he's been fighting this for years, since 2015, 16.
Yeah,
Scott Moe has literally said, if you are talking about carbon tax, I want nothing to do with it, and if you insist, I'll leave. And then when push came to shove, boyfriend said, you're going to arrest me? Go ahead and try. Like, I dare you. I double dog dare you, he said to the federal government. And
Bring the
this is
big boy handcuffs because
Yeah,
he's got ham hocks for hands.
just humongous a man hands the man has. But we need more of this energy out of other provincial governments. We are all just acknowledging that we are done with the carbon scheme. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a grift, the green grift that they have going on here. Saskatchewan bowed out super early. We were not a proponent. We were fighting it every single step of the way. It took 7 years for the rest of the country to catch on that the carbon taxes are a grift, that they make no difference. And it's just a way for the federal government to line their pockets. And good for our boy, Scott Moe. Good for him.
Yeah, it'd be nice if Danielle Smith thought the same way. Chris, go ahead.
Well, I believe that she does. Now, it's
Yeah.
important to note that Saskatchewan has a leg up on Alberta in this case because Saskatchewan has a Crown Corporation, energy corporation. So they're able to, as a province, say, no, we're not going to pay this. And then the onus is on the federal government to sue them. And it just won't work out. Alberta, on the other hand, it's all private. So our Alberta government can't say to individuals, hey, just don't pay your carbon tax because we'll get absolutely screwed. We'll just get annihilated. In this case, it's almost like they're playing a game. Like, we could do this a different way. We could collect the carbon tax and then distribute back every single dollar to Alberta that's collected. That's playing the game.
Yeah.
I would much rather see something like Saskatchewan where we said, no, we're going to take control of this and we're going to shield you, Albertans, from the federal government in this way. But it's two different things. Scott Moe is not refusing to play the game, and Alberta has an opportunity to play the game. Or we could simply, become our own independent sovereign nation and never talk about carbon tax again.
Or that.
There's that too.
Or that.
Let's keep going. I've got a whole bunch of things I can pick from. Let's go to the NDP leadership debate. I often forget that they exist. But this, I believe, is their chance to have an actual great reset and sort of get a handle on their crazy. Now, I fundamentally disagree with the NDP on 99 to 99.5% of everything they might say or do. But as a conservative, I cheer for a strong federal NDP because they split the vote on the left. And I think Stephen Harper's greatest friend in politics was always Thomas Mulcair, because he was at least not a lunatic. Wrong, but not a lunatic. And he sort of split the vote on the left. So now is the NDP's opportunity to take themselves from the minivan caucus to maybe a school bus caucus. We might get some of them. But Avi Lewis, I think, has obviously other plans for the party. I think he's probably the leading candidate for leader. And he says that if we build, man camps and construction camps, that the women of the neighborhood are going to be in big trouble. Let's listen to this age-old anti-male trope.
Leah Gazan's bill for the red dress alert, as we are now into the 16 days of activism leading on gender-based violence, leading up to December 10th. All of this talk of nation-building projects that has consumed the oxygen of our political conversation in Canada, they're big, manly things with huge work camps entailed in remote areas. The impacts on Indigenous women and girls are intense, are horrifying. Leah Gazan's bill.
Okay, that's enough. I take great offense to this, as all the men in my family work in the oil patch in some form or another, including my son. And this is deeply offensive. These men go there to do their jobs, support their families, put a few bucks in their pocket. They work in terrible, untenable conditions that these soft-handed goofballs like Avi Lewis would never be able to do. Welding on a platform or laying on your back, welding on a pipeline in -40. This guy's hands, they can't handle the cold. They get a little chapped. In the meantime, our men who are building this country are accused of being predators. Get bent. I find this deeply offensive. And normally I'm not someone who gets offended because that means you can't control your feelings. But this sort of stuff is really personal to so many women in the West. And this shows just how much they hate us and the builders and the growers of this country. Go to Chris, because I think you worked in the oil patch at one point, didn't you?
Well, I want to be a lot more colorful in my
do it.
response to what he said. The notion that just because there's men working in an area that women have to be fearful is completely ludicrous. Men
I feel
are
safer, actually. Sorry.
Yeah, we're genetically predisposed and genetically wired to protect women. When there's something happening, a man gets involved and protects women. It's literally our purpose for existing. If there's a threat to our family, we're the ones that go and fight the criminal or take the bullet or whatever. Guys like that, the people that are condemning masculinity as as the destruction of the West are literally destroying our society. That's and we're not talking just like men in the oil field or men in like working men, burly men. We're also talking about men who are man enough to stand up and say something like Christ is king,
Right.
or some of the more the social issues. So yeah, I mean, there's so much. There's so much. The guy's a dink. He's a complete dink, and he's using fear and rage baiting to try and change people's minds in order to gain political favor. And I really don't think it's going to work, because we're seeing a resurgence of masculinity these days. We really are.
There's no, you know what? A guy like Avi Lewis, I look at him and I'm like, that's toxic femininity that I'm seeing there. It's not toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity is women and children first, apparently, according to this guy. I feel safer when there are a bunch of strapping blue-collar men around. And I feel constantly on guard when I'm around a bunch of male feminists. But what do I know? I was punched in the face by one one time. Lise, go ahead.
No, the NDP are sheep in sheep's clothing.
Right.
as a person who works remotely all the time, solo by myself, as a solo lady van lifer, every single time I've got myself in a pinch, and there have been more than a handful of times where I'll just find myself in a ditch, or just trapped or marooned or something. And 10 times out of 10, it's before I can call for help. And before that help arrives, a guy in a work truck will come out of nowhere and get me out of that pinch and send me on my way. What happened to the NDP being the party of the workers? Did you hear what that guy just said? He said workers are dangerous to women and children because he's on some, 16 days of talking like a schmuck to end gender-based violence. What are you even talking about? You don't think that women are employed in those camps? NDP, of course they are. And you know what kind of experience they have? Absolutely incredible. The NDP can't become irrelevant fast enough for me. They just can't.
He needs to spend a little time talking to the waitresses in places like Fox Creek, where
they're making the most money.
Amazing money. You know what I mean? But what does he know? He's just a male feminist doing his best to disarm women by being a male feminist. I won't hurt you, baby. I'm a male feminist. Let's go into the thing that happened yesterday. Drea Humphrey was right in the mix there. Frances Widdowson is adding some names to her list of enemies today, I'll tell you. Outspoken Mount Royal professor Frances Widdowson. In fact, she had a hearing today, a labor-related hearing today, and it was canceled. Not because she was arrested yesterday trying to speak her mind, but because I think the adjudicator came down with the sniffles. But we've got a video of outspoken Mount Royal University professor Frances Widdowson getting arrested at the University of Victoria for simply trying to have a conversation. These other people can't control themselves, and so Frances gets arrested for some reason. Let's watch.
So you're going to arrest me and you're going to take me into the downtown? Off the property. And then we'll go from there. Okay. Well, but I have to obey your orders as a member of the police department. Okay.
Excuse me, sir. How many months did the Palestinian protest stay here on the UVic campus?
Great point.
Was it 2 months?
I have to. So
Was it 3 months?
You're ordering me to go with you. Okay.
Shame.
Look at this. That's crazy. How many cops did they have there for little Frances Widdowson? The woman must weigh 85 pounds. Like, she's tiny and she's just there to have a conversation. If she's going to be attacked by crazy people, deal with the crazy people. But that one guy was totally right. How long did the Palestinian protest stay here without ever getting trespassed? 2 months?
Oh, UVic is an absolute woke oasis. It just so happens that our daughter convocated from there not too terribly long ago.
So
There
you can
were
say it now?
thousands. Yeah, I can say it now because she's free and she's sort of free and clear. But there were thousands of Palestinian flags on campus. When I asked a UVic employee what in the fresh hell that meant, we believe in respectful disagreement on this campus. Well, it doesn't look that way. If you look at what just happened to Dr. Frances Widdowson, it's shame on the Saanich police and law enforcement in general that will put that many resources toward. P.S. You stumble over homeless people walking onto that campus. Okay, Victoria is absolutely overwhelmed with homeless people, and yet you have your entire police force out there to confront a little lady because she has words that might hurt somebody's feelings. The only comfort that I can take in this is that they have no idea who they've angered. Frances Widdowson is absolutely out of craps to give, and I cannot.
All her
wait to
F's
see.
are way gone. They're gone.
They're
She
like,
doesn't
see
have-
her bucket. This is her bucket of F's. You will see that it is empty. Okay, she is done. She's been fighting. Well, she lost her career, she lost her dignity, she lost her freedom and ability to speak. Frances Widdowson is going to come out swinging against this. She's going to have a story to tell. I am here for her all day. May we all, the women, be more like Frances Widdowson. After seeing her win her George Jonas Freedom Award this last summer, there is no way that you can see that woman and think to yourself, I'm doing enough here. I'm doing enough here. Look at her confronting these guys. Look at her. And she's calm, cool, and collected. And here's the thing. She's going to win. She's going to win. She's just she's a force in nature, Frances Widdowson. So all the best to her. And I can't wait to see how these guys go down in flames. Truly.
Well,
They deserve it.
I was talking to Drea this morning. They did escort her off the property. They did arrest her. They kept her for about an hour and they left her go. And I described arresting Frances Widdowson as trying to stuff a cat in a bag. Because I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine what it was like in that police car with her. Not that she is wild, but I bet they were getting a real earful.
She's
from
formidable.
Her. Yes.
She's formidable. Yep.
Chris, go ahead.
That kind of reminds me of when young Josh Alexander got arrested for standing outside holding a Bible. Do you remember that?
Right. Yes.
The woke trans lunatics were attacking him, like physically assaulting him, and the Calgary police came in and arrested him. And what does that tell you? Our institutions and our authority in this country are completely backwards and they're cowards.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like the Palestinian protester occupation of UVic, and nothing was done about that.
And it was garbage, Chris. You should have seen it. Like it.
I did. There's lots online.
Yeah, it looked like a dump right in the middle of one of the most beautiful campuses in the country, and it was there forever.
But we're also talking about UVic is a university where they are so woke. I have a friend that goes there, and they say that almost every time a student gives a presentation, it's a land acknowledgement, acknowledgement, shaming each other for being white, shaming each other from being from Europe. Like, it is absolutely unreal. And speaking of Palestinian protesting, I found out something interesting the other day. The Palestinian flag, that's the colors of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Isn't that interesting?
I firmly believe that.
I watched Dragon Prophecy on Angel Studios, and I didn't believe it until I looked it up.
We've got a video that Drea kept.
Wild.
I have to stop looking for things like that. because then I see things and then I have a difficult time going through the world.
You can't
without
unsee
seeing
them.
Exactly.
Right, you can't unsee them. Exactly that. Now what we're all going to think now, Chris, that. Thanks.
Yeah.
buddy.
Oops.
I'm less innocent now than I was 10 seconds ago. We've got, just in contrast, Drea captured this yesterday. So we saw what Francis was doing, just standing there, just being Francis. And Saanich police, same cops, same event. They failed to arrest an Antifa, let's say Antifa-like, Antifa-adjacent, and Antifa-lateral, in that orbit anyways, who assaulted Drew Coover, yet they quickly arrested Francis Widdowson. So let's see what these guys were up to. But they saw Francis as the real threat with her prickly ideas and her icy demeanor.
A lot of it is private funds. I think 36.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, where's the cops now?
Where's the cops?
Where are the cops?
Let go. Back off. On me. He's on me. He's on camera. Where's my camera? Hey, back off as well. All of you over there. Or away from the gas. Back over there. We'll deal with this. Back over there.
That's the kind of shit you guys should be dealing with.
Are you proud of this? Are you proud of this, University of Victoria?
Yeah, we got it hard because you're leaving and we fucking hate you.
You're proud of this, eh?
Are you proud of yourself? I haven't seen a more third-rate group of political agitators since the fucking Capitol. Jesus Christ. You aren't fucking welcome. You aren't even fucking welcome to go to family Thanksgiving with it. Fuck
Who got arrested there? Nobody?
What a bunch of children.
That's crazy.
This
Who
is
got
why
arrested
President
there?
Trump. This is why President Trump declared Antifa a terrorist organization. Because look, they're terrorists.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Go ahead, Chris.
Wow. Well, this comes back to the idea of strong men. I think the people that are speaking truth should have more people with them. Why are people so scared to actually go and stand with people speaking the truth? I think it was Jim McMurtry there too. Was that him speaking?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, like these folks, Jim McMurtry, Dallas Brody, Francis Widdowson, Michelle Sterling, amongst others, they're telling the truth about things. And the truth is so uncomfortable that these I don't want to say brainwashed, but these indoctrinated kids are literally, they're dehumanizing the truth tellers to the point where violence is acceptable.
Right.
In an institution that talks about inclusivity and all of these, fluffy left-leaning, supposed left-leaning ideologies. No, I think it's time that people started manning up and cowgirling up and going with these people and standing with them when they're having these conversations, because under no circumstances is that type of thing acceptable.
Yeah, I mean, you can see how they've moved themselves to this point. When the left says that, misgendering is violence and words are violence.
Yeah.
Then you feel justified in meeting somebody's words with violence because it's just violence on violence. It's self-defense. It's all the same, right?
Yeah. The
someone's
punch
attacking
a Nazi.
Yeah, if someone's attacking you with violence, why wouldn't you react with force? And so this is how they've sort of justified where we are now. And I think it's an absolute disaster that we can't engage in civil discourse. I'm glad you mentioned 1BC and Dallas Brody, because, and this is we're not sponsored to do this. We're not anything. But this morning, early morning, I watched their documentary, Making a Killing. It's currently it's free on YouTube. I suggest you watch it before they take it down. And by they, I mean big tech takes it down. Drea's in it. Our friend Michelle Sterling from Friends of Science in another capacity, in her research capacity on the issue of residential schools. They go through the history of residential schools and where, the lies have gotten us, and the attacks on Dallas and 1BC and anybody who simply questions the narrative who says, even these things might be true, but maybe we should have some proof first. It's on YouTube right now. I suggest you guys go watch it, but while you still can. Not right now. Wait for me to sign off on the show and then go watch it. We've got a few. Yeah, there it is. Making a Killing. It's 1 hour and 21 minutes and it's worth every second. I learned things. I thought I knew a lot about this, but I still learned things. We've got a few super chats that we can read and then I guess we'll sign off. I didn't have it. Oh, sorry. No, I've got a Rumble ad read I got to get to and then we'll do the chat. So let's do that one right now. Looking for smarter ways to browse and enjoy your favorite content without ads? Get the Perplexity Pro bundle with Rumble Premium for just $19.99 a month when you sign up before December 1st, normally a $29.99 value. With Rumble Premium, you'll get an ad-free viewing experience across all your devices and access to exclusive premium content. No interruptions, just the videos and streams you love anytime, anywhere. Plus, boy, this is going to be a hard thing for me to say. Plus, Perplexity Pro boosts your productivity with unlimited research, unlimited uploads, exclusive member perks, and access to the latest, most advanced AI models for faster, smarter answers every day. Save over 30% on this powerful bundle. Head on over to rumble.com/premium before December 31st to sign up and unlock your premium experience. Now, normally at the end of the show, we have something called the Daily Cringe, but I didn't select one before we got on the show because I was buttoning up my latest little schemes. So I didn't get a chance to do it unless Efron can find us one while we're going through these few chats. Wonder Woman Wells gives us $5 and says, there's no financial accountability for First Nations. We just keep giving money and the corrupt band council steals it and does nothing to improve the quality of life of the reservations. That may be true in some instances, but I should tell you that the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, we talk about it on my show tonight on the Gunn Show. Canadian Taxpayers Federation has just helped an Indigenous activist on Frog Lake get access to accountability, getting access to financial records of his band. And it is precedent setting. It means that this judgment could require other First Nations who are withholding this information. It will force them to turn it over. Now, not all bands are like that. Some bands, Stephen Harper brought in the First Nations Accountability Act, again, through the advocacy of Colin Craig, who was at the Canadian Taxpayers Federation at the time. Trudeau, of course, repealed it, but some bands actually kept going with their requirements under the First Nations Accountability Act, publishing their financials online. So some bands are really great, and some bands are, of course, like Frog Lake. So we'll see what happens, but there are people, activists, and First Nations activists. It's the people who are forced to live on reserve, or who choose to live on reserve, who are the ones trying their best to hold their chiefs to account. And I think it's incumbent on us to demand that they have the same rights to their municipal records that the rest of us have. Wild Freedom 7 gives us $5 and says, if Alberta separates, will it split the vote for the UCP? The UCP seem the best to handle separation. I would hate to see a separate Alberta run by the NDP. Chris, I'll let you answer this one.
All of them would be out of jobs when Alberta becomes independent. There would be no UCP. There will be no NDP. I'm hoping that an independent Alberta Alberta independence is the tide pen that's going to remove the orange stain from this province. That's what I'm hoping. So no, there is no worry about splitting a vote. Upon the creation of independent nation of Alberta, we'd have to have a constitutional convention, decide how we're going to govern ourselves, create a constitution that outlines how the government may interact with us. And then we would decide what kind of government we're going to have, and we'd have elections. So no, there would be no concern of vote splitting in that regards.
Right. And the referendum itself is outside of the party system. It's the people deciding. Yeah. So there's no chance of a vote split there.
It's outside of government completely.
Right.
Yeah. Also, I like how you said determine how the government may interact with us.
Right.
Amen, brother. That's the way it should be. You're gonna need permission to talk to us, government.
Exactly.
I love it so much.
Yeah.
And Saskatchewan. Just every time you said Alberta, then
also can we take a moment to thank our separatist friend Thomas Lukasik for
such a good heavy lifter.
Yes.
Team player even.
You know, I ran into a few people from Redford's cabinet at the UCP AGM. One of them I did offer an apology to for going a little bit too hard on her back in the day. If you're watching, Christine, I reiterate that I'm sorry I went overboard. But let us thank Thomas Lukaszuk for achieving his goal of a separatist referendum. Chris, I'll let you take this one too.
It was beautiful. Thomas Lukaszuk campaigned across Alberta in his little motorhome, telling people that they needed to sign this paper that was saying they wanted Alberta to remain in Canada. He was telling them that they were going to lose their pensions if they didn't sign, or we'd become American if they didn't sign. So people signed. 465,000 signed. And as it turns out, 405,000 of those were real. Like over 50,000 of those were disqualified. But what he failed to tell the people signing that citizens initiative petition for a referendum on independence was that he literally asked that this go to referendum with the question,
Thank you, Thomas.
do you want Alberta to remain in Canada? It's an independence referendum. So thank you very much, Tom. I appreciate your hard work. But now the real heavy lifting is up to us. We have to start campaigning and having conversations with our friends, neighbors, enemies, whoever, and explaining why we need to support an independent Alberta, because Thomas has got us the referendum we wanted.
Thank you, Thomas. Yes, we
Thank
will
you,
erect
Thomas.
a bronze statue of him at the Capitol in Lloydminster one day.
And then knock it down.
He's a folk hero.
A wee little plaque in Lloydminster. Yep, that's still going to be our capital city. It'll be incredible. Yep, way to go, Thomas. Well done.
Wild Freedom 7 gives us $5. It says, did not Premier Smith say they are still working on the carbon tax and how quickly it goes into effect, even with the MOU? Is there no hope for this pipeline? She has said that. She also said the MOU didn't give a veto to BC and the First Nations, but her duplicitous snake partner in the MOU, Mark Carney, keeps saying that. And he keeps saying that the industrial carbon tax is going to go up 6 times. So I don't know. I mean, we can do a lot of negotiating, but when we have a bad faith partner, I don't know why we would consider him to be a truthful participant in this MOU. I think we have a cringe.
Efron.
Nope. Efron came through. Yes. It's a flashback cringe, but I don't remember reacting to it, so we'll go with it. We got another one from Wild Freedom 7 says, and who would run the new elections? An unelected separatist group? Sounds nice, but you just can't get the government out. Chris, explain.
Who would run the elections?
Elections Alberta. Well,
elections are, I mean, that stuff is determined by our Constitution. So right away, we put things in place that don't allow the problems that we have right now. This is about an opportunity to have the people participating for real and making sure that the governance that they allow is doing the job that we tell them to do. Like, I truly believe that the UCP made a huge mistake when they appointed the current Elections Alberta dude. That was a big mistake. They could have just, it would have been better for them if they had just shot themselves in the foot. This was worse. So that's where this Constitution thing comes into play. That's what sets the tone for everything.
Right. There you go. Yeah. I mean, it would be fair and open elections.
Yep. No tabulators.
Yeah.
Hand counted. Scrutineers. The whole 9 yards.
Yep. Okay. This is a flashback daily cringe from last month. It's from Canada Proud. And he says, on a scale of 1 to 10, how cringe is this Liberal MP? I'm already just tense thinking about it. I have secondhand embarrassment already. I haven't even seen this.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the news today was that we created 67,000 jobs. 67, Mr. Speaker. It's great news. We are growing the economy, and the budget 2025, is making historic investments that are going to keep this economy moving.
That's Rachel Bendian, the gun grabber. She did the 6767 thing. I don't even know what that is.
Me neither.
I'm from the internet. I know the kids are doing it. Like, I'm from the internet. That's how you got me. But I still don't know what this is.
I have 4 teens and preteens, and let me just tell you, that Liberal MP sounds exactly like my teens and preteens. Not cool. Just absolutely not cool.
I kept asking my kids to explain memes to me, and they stopped. because they're like, we don't want you armed with this information to go out into the world and try to embarrass yourself. So if you don't know anything about it, you won't talk about it. So thanks, Riley, for saving me from that.
Oh,
But
I find by the time I pick up their slang, it's already not cool anymore. You know what I
I've
mean?
recently
By the
started
time old mom,
yeah.
by the time old mom picks it up, it's like, Mom, don't. Nobody says that anymore. So I just stay in my lane.
I just use my 90s stuff in front of my
yeah.
son's friends. I'll talk about stuff being rad or bodacious or stuff like that.
Deadly.
Like, I'll go right back to my
deadly.
roots.
Nobody,
Yeah.
nobody will identify themselves as a friend of mine faster than if they call something deadly in my presence. I'm like, yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy. Deadly.
I
Rad.
started using Riz around my kids' friends just to embarrass them, and they just put their head down. All right. I think that's the show for today. This has been a fun one. We're 16 minutes over. Chris, thanks so much for coming along with us on the entire show today. That was great. It was the quickest hour and 15 minutes, I think, in broadcasting that I've done in a long time. So thanks so much, Chris. Tell people how they can find you and get involved in the work that you do to educate people on the value of Alberta independence.
First of all, my website is www.whistlestoptruckstop.ca. I know it's a bit of a mouthful, but it's worth it. I've got a blog there. I have a merch store with some cool whistle stop stuff and Alberta independence things. Read my blogs. I try and put all of this stuff, all of my thoughts in one place so people can read that before they ask a bunch of questions. The Alberta Prosperity Project, of course, is an excellent place to find information about not only Alberta independence, but where I'm going to be speaking, where other people are going to be speaking. And on that note, I've had this sitting here, and I want you all to know that our friend Cory Morgan's book, The Sovereigntist's Handbook, right here that you can find on Amazon, this is like one of the best books on what Alberta independence movements have been like in Alberta since the 90s when he was leader of the Alberta Independence Party. Oftentimes you can find me at the Whistle Stop Cafe, and pretty much wherever there's something going on in this province where there's an opportunity to make some change or have our voices heard, I try and be there. So good chance you're going to meet me in person if you go to some of these things.
You've got an event in Camrose tonight, I think, right?
Oh yeah. Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Camrose tonight, Wimborne next week, and there's a couple other ones coming up. I can't remember where, but events page on the Alberta Prosperity Project website.
Sounds great. All right, let's sign off. Lise, thanks so much for being along with us on yesterday's technical catastrophized day and then today, which was just a fun, wild ride. We appreciate you so much, and we've got a little scheme in the works for you, which I think is nearing its fruition. People at home, stay tuned. I'm going to need your help making this an absolute rip-roaring nationwide success, and I know you're going to come through.
Sheila has a hint. She's wearing a hint on her actual body right now. And I saw somebody in the chat say, that project, that big news that Lise and Sheila were talking about, did I miss it? Ooh, it is so close. And I am just vibrating like a tuning fork over it, you guys. Yeah. So just keep your eyeballs peeled. Eyeballs.
Like hours and hours-ish away. Like fewer than 100 hours. So stay tuned.
I'm wild about it. Hey, Chris, I got it. Yeah, you will. Chris, we got it. You know that book
we'll
you
talk
held
to
up?
him
There's another hint. Yeah.
Anyways.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. All right. That's the show for today. Thank you so much. Everybody works behind the scenes at Rebel News to put the show together and brings up those clips when we call for them. We couldn't do it without you. Those of you who pitched in a little bit to keep the lights on here at Rebel News. We don't take a penny from the government, and how could we? So we rely on you at home. And for those of you who donating is out of your price point, that's great. That's okay. If you share the content, if you interact with the content, if you engage with the content, that's a priceless thing that you can do to help us get around the big tech censorship algorithms. I think that's it. Let's sign off. I'll see you tomorrow, I believe, with a different co-host. And if you find us offensive, maybe don't find us at all.
Oh, hi, it's Ezra Levant here in Toronto with an important message because we need your help. Independent journalism in Canada is under attack. Government censors, big tech deplatformers, and the dying legacy media are all working together to maintain exclusive control on the information you receive. They don't want you to hear other voices like ours, and they really don't want you to be informed and to think for yourself. That's why the work we do here at Rebel News is so important. Our on-the-ground reporting, independent news shows, and special content you won't find anywhere else. It's all designed to give you trustworthy information and alternative viewpoints so you can decide for yourself. We don't get government money, and we are not owned by some big global conglomerate. We're funded by people just like you, so please support independent journalism and help us continue our work by subscribing and becoming a Rebel News Plus member today, right here on the page. Go to rebelnewsplus.com. Members get instant access to all of our shows, invitations to exclusive events, and access to our premium content like live event footage and documentaries you won't see anywhere else. Only Rebel News Plus members can join the conversation by participating in the comments section of our new website. That way you can have your say too. More than anything, though, you'll be able to take pride in supporting real, honest journalism, and you'll help our talented team continue to do the work to push back on the establishment. We really can use your help. We need it, in fact. So thank you, and enjoy Rebel News Plus.